it's Irene again. I am an international student studying at the University of Amsterdam, specifically Amsterdam University College. And in today's video, I want to talk to you a little bit about the biking. I've been here for just like 2 weeks, but still, I feel like I collected a little bit of culture shocks or just facts that I didn't know before. I mean, here it might be just kind of useful things to keep in mind when arriving and dealing with the whole environment. So without any further ado, let's start this little chat. So let's start from here. I know that cycling in the Netherlands can be actually quite scary for some people. I have a few friends of mine who came to see me here in the Netherlands and kind of struggled to just ride their bikes alone because we're not sure about maybe how to deal with the kind of traffic lights and the signaletics around the streets, and of course they didn't even know which way to go. Sometimes they had to use their navigator, and that made them a bit clumsy. So it was kind of a reason why they were most cases kind of opting for like the public transports, which would be the most like the quickest option of all. In fact, if you sometimes search for like in Google Maps, if you want to reach a certain destination, it might not always be smart to reach by a bus, of course, depending on the weather, because I wouldn't really suggest riding a bike with the crazy Amsterdam wind. So up to you the choice. But what I could kind of see so far that might be very useful to keep in mind when riding a bike in the Netherlands is to be very attentive to the signalétic, which tend to be also a bit more specific, even on the floor. So basically, at the end of a cycle path, or when you're crossing with other streets, here you also find little triangles that are a symbol of priority, which is normally like used for cars. But even for bikes lane crossing, you do also kind of have to respect which person is supposed to go forward first. And it does make a lot of sense because it kind of avoid quite some inconvenient accident, even though, I mean, people tend to respect it, but of course there are like those who are just kind of very, very fast and just kind of cross your street and be like, okay, I'm sorry. The time you're crossing the street, you always find the traffic light for the pedants, and then like nearby that one, you do find the one for the bikes. And quite interesting thing is that I noticed that not always the like traffic lights for the pedants and the bikes are synchronized. I mean, they tend to kind of display the red light or the kind of green light at the same time, but you need to be kind of mindful. Maybe just a matter of a few seconds, but cars kind of tend to kind of start quickly when riding, so you don't want to find yourself in the middle of the street at that time, I think. So another big thing that really tricked me the first days was understanding on which side of the street I should stay, because I saw that in each street normally have at least one cycling path, so I would kind of just go for it and be okay with it. I feel like very much all right in my own little secure space, safe from the cars. But it didn't kind of pass across my mind the fact that the kind of cycling paths tend to be unidirectional. So bikes normally circulate just on one way and not both ways. So in order to go on the right side of the street, you need to understand like on which side car you kind of which direction you need to go, and basically stand on the right side of the street compared to that direction. So it's actually quite easy, but I think you kind of need to realize that, especially when you're crossing the street, and sometimes you kind of might kind of cross it in a place that seems to be more convenient to you coming from a specific direction. But then when you're on the other side and you realize you have to cross again, for example, if there's like a little square kind of crossing and you need to be on the other side, you might just go straight and then turn right, or you might just go right and then left. And that really makes a difference, and you need to kind of know which way to go, like straight or right from the very beginning, because otherwise on the other side of the street you might find yourself on the opposite direction compared to the bikes. And I mean, it's not that much of a big deal, I feel like, but it can kind of bother the other bikes when you're crossing them, because sometimes people, especially those who are kind of with an electric bike, which tend to be kind of very, very fast. They're just kind of depassing other bikers, and so if they don't see you, they won't probably expect you to be there, and they just might kind of, bump into each other. Another kind of surprising thing that I noticed is that motorcycles tend to also go on the cycling paths. It's not all motorcycles, it's mostly like those who have a specific kind of I think engine which allows them to cover kind of reasonable speed, so it's not too like powerful, let's say, but still it still tends to be quite fast. And so this is especially a tip for walkers: never walk on the cycling path. Like, be very mindful when you're walking on the sidewalk to recognize which one is which. The cycling paths almost always tend to have a red surface, whereas the normal kind of walking sidewalk is kind of grayish. But then it also depends on kind of the structure, the texture, like a bit. But there should be signs helping you, and so kind of try to look for them as much as possible. Because yeah, I noticed that pedants here barely have the kind of priority when on a kind of a very highly trafficked situation. But also because they are the ones that are kind of less visible, less kind of quick. So bikes themselves tend to kind of very much go for their own direction and don't mind too much about what else is going on. So sometimes it can be a bit risky, Another thing that I think you should really know about riding bikes in the Netherlands is that having lights is mandatory, especially at night. And then using your phone is not allowed. So especially if you're a tourist and you don't really know how to reach a certain place, and you would easily go from Google Maps and just kind of try to kind of multitask while riding your bike, that might cause some little troubles. And I mean, I have a little story time on that regard about like that is quite recent, because basically last week, I think, I was riding my bike and I was very much in the process of also responding to some like messages on WhatsApp. So I was recording myself, which still allowed me kind of see the streets, but I wasn't fully paying attention to it. And I was in the kind of center of Amsterdam. I was close to the central station. So there was a huge kind of bike lane, but also kind of mixed with people just walking. And sometimes you also find like some trucks, maybe some like working trucks that are kind of passing there. I still haven't really understood who can go there exactly, but since it's very big, you just kind of find your own way, which is what I was doing until when a car kind of put itself in the middle of my passage. So I basically tried to avoid that, and I was very surprised because it was almost kind of bumping into me. And so I stopped like a few meters after that, and a Dutchman from that car basically pulled down the window glass, and started talking to me in Dutch. And so at that point, I basically turned my head again back, and I realized that it was a police car. So to my surprise, I just stood there a bit kind of not sure what to do, and the man continued to speak to me in Dutch, which I don't understand at all. And at that point, I asked him to kind of talk to me in English, because it was like English only. And so like, long story short, he just told me to in a very scary voice, by the way, because I was quite angry that I couldn't use my phone while I was riding my bike, because that could have given me a fine, which is not something to take too much for granted, because fines here can like easily reach like more than 100 euros, and even for things like that. So I got a little bit scared, and I just thanked him, because in that moment he might have understood that I was still not really aware of the rules. So just know that. And considering with the lights, like having your bike, I also had my roommate who told me a kind of interesting fact about it. I think it's also a quite universally acknowledged fact that bikes in Amsterdam tend to be stolen very easily. But another thing that gets stolen even more easily is bike lights. Bike lights can be stolen because they are kind of mandatory, as I said, and so not having them might also imply a fine. I was very surprised to hear that, but fortunately my dad, when he helped me to move in, he basically gave me like 2 extra lights, like one for the front, one for the back. So basically I was running my bike with 4 lights. I mean, not all of them was turned on, but still it was kind of an interesting effect. At least now I'm quite secure they shouldn't get any fining, at least for that, and I'm prepared enough. But yeah, of course, it's another things to keep in mind, and I don't think it's anything kind of too hard or too crazy. I guess it's just like very basic rules which should apply anywhere regardless of the place. But since the Netherlands prioritize a lot the usage of bikes and just kind of create so many facilities for them, which are actually very cool, I do think it's important to at least use them in the safest way. So I hope that was kind of a little quick and useful introduction to the biking culture here in the Netherlands. And so I hope to see you soon. Thank you very much for paying attention. So bye.